Hey everyone, Chris Gogolin here doing another episode of my game review series. Today's games were submitted to us by Sagnet, a European player who's been playing quite a bit on the Gemp website the last year or so. I don't know if he's played in too many real life tournaments, something I might have to check out before the end of the video. But we're going to get started here. The first game that we're going to review is his light side. He played a Lightsaber combat deck, and his opponent was playing Endor Ops. Lightsaber Combat is certainly a deck that's always been near and dear to my heart. One of the decks that I have had some of my bigger success moments with, but unfortunately it's fallen out a little bit of favor these days just with the current state of the game. Um, it gives up 4 icons at the start, which is always pretty rough. But it was a concern during the reset that obviously we didn't want to go back to the 2001 2002 meta by taking away so many of the virtual cards and seeing decks like Combat and Senate go to the forefront. So they were held in check a little bit with some of the existing virtual cards and defensive shields, and they've kind of landed in the middle in toward the tier rankings. So Sagnet's going to start Walkling Saitor, and then he chooses Evac for this particular matchup, expecting his opponent to be running a few Battle Destiny adders. This looks like an Endor Ops flip deck he's playing against. We'll see the Endor shield pull right off the bat. Establish for Fondor to get that extra system, so you get the ominous rumors out quickly, get the objective flipped, get to another system right away to start, hopefully draining for 3. His opponent in this game is Zlorfic. I don't even know how to pronounce that, or what it stands for. Happens to be a former world champion, Bastion Winklehouse. So playing a not quite tier 1 deck against a tier 1 opponent usually doesn't always work out as well as you'd hope. But sometimes you do catch these guys off guard with some things that they may not have been expecting. Bastion goes ahead and goes for the early flip. Endor shield for it's the Thrawn Virtual, the one who suspends the Admiral's orders. I'll go ahead and pop up his game text there. Gives the ability to follow with land speed if necessary. So he gets the quick flip, gets both effects out, and moves over to just the docking bay. So here's a pause it here for a quick second. So now you're looking at the light side player. He didn't save any force, so barrier's out of the question. 8 cards in hand. Is it a Gick? Maybe, maybe not type situation. Is he looking at his opponent? He's only got 6 cards in hand right now. Scrolling back for a second. Oh, he played Hear Me, Baby to play a defensive shield. I was trying to figure out why his hand was smaller. I know he played the Boss Nash Chamber already, but I missed what the first card was. So it's a calculated risk, certainly by Bastion. Does he have a Gick? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he's just thinking, my opponent, he activated 10. That's like a Jedi and a lightsaber. And I'm already going to be activating 17, which is quite a lot to come back with for the counter beat. Bastion is definitely a player who loves to set up counter beatdowns. So, given the option here to go after Thrawn or to just go set up Naboo, I can certainly see why Sagnet would choose the option he does move forward, which is to go set up at Naboo. He's using Padme Non-V, the original Amidala, who lets you twice per game go get Obi or Qui-Gon out of the deck. He opts to go get Obi-Wan here. I believe Obi's saber was there. I don't think Qui-Gon's was. So Qui-Gon's saber was not there. So he went and got Obi, his saber. It's a pretty solid scenario there. You've got a nice drain the 3 set up at a site you're fairly well protected against from a number of guys, because any of characters that he hits, ability less than 5, go to the used pile instead, so it's an opportunity to clear out a few guys. Certainly they could hit Padme and send her to the used as well. And then he just draws 1 or 2. We see him pick up a sense, which is always nice. He's already holding 2 barriers, which is pretty good, and a control tunnel vision, which could certainly be helpful next turn as well. For trying to find something. Um, Bastion on his turn goes right on ahead and just pulls a document for extra activation, pulls the site, um, and just moves on over, or gets this to the site and just moves Thrawn on over there, and then just starts drawing like a madman. Uh, there are a couple of players who are renowned for this, Bastion and Johnny Chu, who very early on in the game, they are not afraid to just draw like a 20 card hand, especially if they're really looking for something. Um, Forget about Grimtosh or Monarch, and just, if their opponent is playing it, it's not the most commonly played card these days. If they are playing it, and if they happen to have it already, well, more power to you. But you know, certainly not afraid to draw a 20 card hand and just be like, here, I've got everything I want now, and I'm activating 17 force next turn, and I'm just going to spew it all out onto the board. I think it's a fairly safe bet to say at this point in time in the game that if Bastion didn't have a Gick the first turn, he most certainly does now. Um, so Sagnet's going to go ahead. He's going to get his drain of 3 in here. We're going to see a ship, Ozzel, and lateral damage. Probably safe cards to throw away. He's probably got a number of ships. This is where he certainly has some options. So you look at his hand right now. He's got 7 cards in hand, including Qui-Gon. So there's 2 schools of thought here. The first being to spread out to 2 locations, trying to maximize your drain potential damage. The second school of thought would be, to stack up a couple guys all at one site, just to really lock down that one big drain and protect yourself as much as you can. And the third school of thought would be to kind of mirror what Bastion just did, and draw these most of these 10 cards here. So you have answers for whatever your opponent might be doing next to you. I don't mind deploying Qui-Gon, especially because you knew the Saber wasn't there last time, so it's very likely to be there now. So you get the Saber. It's the next play that he does. He's got 4 force left. He uses Walkling. He uses the 3 force to pull the Lightsaber proficiency. He's going to put that down on Qui-Gon. Now he's really trying to get a big drain of 4 going here, but it doesn't allow him to draw any cards and replenish his hand, and it kind of runs his hand down a little bit. Your opponent's activating 17 force and has 17 cards in hand, and you've got 6 cards in hand and only saved 1. That is something I wasn't too fond of seeing. I would have rather seen him draw a card or 2 there, even if he deployed the Qui-Gon, save 2 force, so you could have played both barriers, if necessary. Not too worried about the drain there, but now you're going to see Maul come down. He's going to get the first barrier, but if in this 15-16 card hand that your opponent has, if he has a barrier canceller, you don't have, you could sense it, and you could try and sense it, of course, but you don't have the second force available to play the second barrier, so I may have been a little more conservative with that. He's going to go ahead and grab the barrier instead, which is really going to hamstring his ability to play this second one in the future, because now it's going to cost 3. Against combat, though, it's a pretty good card to grab. Bastion's going to get space set up. He's got Slave 1 with Fett out. Still just leaving this lone Thrawn down here. Not too worried at all about him. So I think it's safe to say he probably has that Gick, but then he's going to draw a couple more cards and keep his hand size still pretty big at 15. Not a whole lot that you could expect him to do here. He can't battle because of the combat objective. So he can use the control tunnel vision, hopefully fish out a high destiny card. Looking at his options here, he can't battle where he's got Luke. So you've got a couple of good options in here. Leia would be an option to go to Endor to potentially cancel some drains. Han Chewie Falcon would potentially be an option. This is the non-V1. Oh, it is the V1, my bad. Um, it's the virtual one, so it's not quite as good against Fett. It would just be one destiny against one destiny. Um, Probably not going to outpower him. I mean, you might blind draw a 5 um, and clear that because it is just Fett. Or, you could take Luke or the 7, either of these two cards. So that way you can, try and win the combat here. The artillery would be best for that, of course, getting the highest destiny possible. Putting that on Qui-Gon to try and combat Maul, to win the combat, do the 4 direct damage, possibly make him lose Maul, because you're already starting out with a 7. Qui-Gon's lightsaber adds 1 to your total, so you're already at an 8. So you're already pretty decently ahead. If you can blind draw something with that first destiny draw, that would be pretty good. 3PO would be nice to have too, but I think he's kind of towards the bottom of the list. Another interesting card here is Mindful of the Future. Maul just swung. Lightsaber may not target again. So, I mean, you're hoping that you're going to win the combat and clear Maul. That would be the more practical way. If you were really trying to play as defensively as possible, this might be a card to grab. It also gives you the option, the Lost Destiny here, because you've got Episode 1 icon Obi and Qui-Gon. So you could add a Battle Destiny. So if he battles you, you could stop him from swinging the second time, which would be helpful to keep him from hitting your Jedi. That way you get to keep a guy alive, because if he's going to suicide him with a Gick, he's not going to care about the power difference between them. Or worst case scenario, you could just add a Battle Destiny. Let him take a swing. If he misses the first one, maybe you don't care so much about the second swing. And go for broke there. So let's see which card he grabs here. He took the 7. Yep. No, makes perfect logical sense there. Put a card down under Qui-Gon using Inner Strength. He's going to spend Force, and he's going to deploy Yoda as well. I don't necessarily like that play. Yoda there doesn't add a whole lot of value. He's low power. So he's not really giving you a whole lot more there. He costs 4. You're very low on cards in hand right now. And he telegraphs to your opponent this sense that may be in your hand and lets him pull There Is No Try. Without Yoda here, it might have been at least another turn or two. You might have gotten that first sense through before your opponent pulled There Is No Try. Or at least until he verified your deck if you missed something and he saw a sense or an altar in there. So he'll go ahead and he'll try and do the combat here. He draws a 3 with the first one. Does not Jedi Levitt. And then uses the 7 on the second one. Not sure why I didn't use the Jedi Lev. I guess maybe he was saving it for a lower Destiny character, figuring maybe 11 would be good enough. I guess we'll never know what that second card might have been. Just checking the Gemp stats. I don't think Gemp counts it properly. Adds 1 to character's combat total. So he blind draws a 9. So yeah, all right. So you get the 11 over here, even though it only says 10 in the chat. So he wins 11 to 9, which causes the 4 force loss, but is not enough to clear Maul off the site. And we won't know whether that top card would have been higher or lower than a 3. He would have needed to draw, I think it's greater than 4. Difference is 5 or greater. So he would have needed to draw a 6 in order to get the 15, get to 14 rather, and clear Maul. A couple of Jedi Lukes and maybe an effect or 2 in there. He places Walkling out of play here to get his control tunnel vision back, which I guess he's just going to Yoda pull right back out next turn. He's only activating 13 force. Don't necessarily know that that would have been something I would have done. I might have saved that for a more valuable card. Although if he's looking at a drain of 3, I guess he's planning on just trying to cancel the drain. So that might certainly be an option. Because he's got a drain of 2 and a drain of 3 here because of ominous rumors. So we'll see him use Yoda in the activate phase, get that control tunnel vision out. Hey, it was a 7 on top. That's unfortunate. The 2 cards on top of his deck were both 7s. So if he had Jedi Lived, the Padme, he would have gotten another 7, and it would have cleared Maul, and certainly this game may have gone a little differently if Maul was dead. So he adds 2 to the drain, makes it a drain of 3. He'll cancel it with the control tunnel vision. And then he get drained for 2 over there with Thrawn. Another card he could have potentially gotten earlier instead of the lightsaber proficiency to increase his drain would have been that projection of a Skywalker. That could have certainly gone down here and canceled that. We're going to see an EPP Maul join, or an EPP Vader come down to join Maul. That's going to pull out that second barrier, which costs all 3 remaining force. Now we're running a slight risk of first strike being an issue. We're going to get Ventress out, who's one more character with a lightsaber, so now we're up to 4 potential lightsaber swings. And there's Grievous, who's going to be able to steal a lightsaber after killing one of these 2 guys, assuming he lives. And Bash is going to go ahead and draw. Doesn't really need to push the action here. He certainly could have battled with Maul, Ventress, and Grievous, but without Vader. But he doesn't necessarily need to, because as long as he's keeping this kind of checkmated, not really taking any damage or overflow, keeping him on the other side of the objective, he knows his destinies are pretty high, and since he's activating 17 a turn, he can pretty much get to those 2 cards every time. Since his opponent has a relatively small hand size, it's going to be unlikely how many cards he can keep stacking and tracking around and drawing to set up enough destiny that he might win a combat, or at least keep close enough to the fact where, yeah, he's losing 4, but he's not losing the characters, while he gets his drains of 3 and 2 going on, and keeps this pressure and keeps the game kind of stalemated over here. So we're going to see Sagnet's going to activate some force. He's going to go ahead and he's going to stack the 5 to get a card down. Now it's the card that stops Maul from swinging twice. He uses this just to peek at his deck to find out if his Jedi Council Chamber's in there. It is. He'll go ahead and use Speak, get that out of there. Certainly don't want to run the risk of drawing 0s. So we'll get that out, but we take a quick pause. And, his deck, the Destiny in it didn't look so bad. There's certainly, a mixture of characters and red cards. He'll go ahead and he'll try and combat again. Going after Mr. Maul a second time. I always use the Combat Destiny second. I always draw one first to find out what you get. He draws Hera. This time he'll use the Jedi Lev. And we'll see what we get. He got a 5 that time. And then using the stacked 5. That's under Qui-Gon there. That'll give him 11 again. Should be pretty likely to win this one, at least cause 4 more damage. And that is the benefit of combat, is that unlike having to pay to drain or something like that, you can do direct damage just like this. See what his opponent has put together. We get a first 5 and possibly a second one. A 5 and a 4. Okay, so he's got that 9 again. So that'll be 4 more damage that we're looking at here. And if he remembers where these 2 5s are, 13 cards down, he could certainly save himself some trouble or just activate around to it next turn. But he's going to go ahead and he's going to draw a bunch here. He's going to get his reserve deck shuffled, which his opponent was just trying to cycle back, but he grabs that because against combat, being able to track destiny is pretty important. So that's a pretty good move. He picks up a 7, which is always good. Stack. Now we got a second 7 and a second Luke. So there's a nice little clump of high destinies here that I'm sure he would love to have in his draw deck instead of in his hand. It doesn't look like there's anything on the board that he can alter. So I think he's just going to pass. He's going to save 4 because he's got a 3rd barrier in his hand, and that's what it would cost with that. But unfortunately, he's going to lose 5 to drains this turn. One of the other issues with combat is because you're constantly fighting over these 2 sites, it does make it a little hard to get the 3 battlegrounds sometime to satisfy ultimatum, to try and reduce this drain a little bit. And I think the possibility of getting the projection over here earlier, keeping these both at 1 and 1, depending on wherever he is, and the fact that Thrawn has basically been able to sit there uncontested almost the entire game. It's just a very unfortunate situation. Dr. E is going to come down. That's pretty much going to be a party pooper with 4 lightsaber swings. Luckily, he's got enough force left to get that 3rd barrier out. So kudos to him for saving enough to do it. Because this guy's really I mean, at the very least, he'll get at least 1 guy. So if he takes a swing at a Jedi, hits the Jedi, then he also forces them to swing at him. He'll go ahead and stack a 7. Now here's another guy. We're going to pause here for a second. While Gamal is in battle, your other characters present with him may not be targeted by opponent's weapons. Place him in use pile if he was just hit. So this guy basically acts as a meat shield to protect Dr. E. So if Dr. E had not gotten barriered, it would have been battle, swing at a Jedi, probably hit, making him go lost with Dr. E. And then Lightside would not have been able to counter swing and hit Dr. E and send him used to get rid of him because of this guy. He would have had to swing at him first. He gets hit, he goes used. Then the second swing goes at anybody. It doesn't matter at this point because Lightside's out of weapon swings. And Dr. E is still on the table. And basically, between Dr. E clearing everybody with 4 weapon swings, there's a pretty good chance that a lot of these guys are going to get hit. And you're going to end up with somebody like Yoda by himself. And it's, 30-3. So good thing he did have that extra barrier, and then looking at his destinies there, they look pretty good. It's one of those things I hate is you can't rewind when you're watching the replay. It would be nice to go back a few seconds. I'll have to put that on the feature list for Troy. Hey Troy, make the rewind button. But Bastion is going to go ahead and battle here still because he's ahead in power. He's got multiple weapon swings. The dodge would have helped make sure that first swing missed, which might have given him the 2 swings to hit this guy and then possibly Dr. E. So he went for Qui-Gon. And that dodge should keep him alive. Yeah, so he would have gotten him with the 2 5s, but instead they're both 2s. So Qui-Gon's going to live. Qui-Gon's going to get to swing. Or actually, Obi should swing because he's the lower ability. Yeah. Obi's weapon makes forfeit 0. Swinging at the guy who's going used. Actually, they both make forfeit 0. What am I talking about? So there's a bionic hand. That's overkill. So we're going to see Gamal go used. Now we're going to get some rapid fire lightsaber swings. He's only got 3 cards in hand, so something like a sniper is probably not likely, but you can still hit a lot of guys. There's 8, that'll hit Qui-Gon. Obi gets the swing at Grievous to help protect his lightsabers. Since he knows Qui-Gon's definitely going to die to get rid of Grievous so he doesn't have to lose the saber, but he misses, draws low. There's the 4, and that's probably the 5. Should be right underneath it. Deaccelerate. That's going to hit Obi. So they're hit, forfeit 0. Now he's got another swing left. Could just take out Padme here, send her used. Or go for Yoda. And he's going to go for Yoda and try and get rid of all the Jedi. And just lucky enough to hit. With that 2 floating around in there, I probably would have played it a little more safe and just gone for Padme, but send her used, get her off the table, lowers power by a couple, and then he's still going to take a whole bunch of overflow. Maybe a little overflow. Actually, none. I take that back. But one thing is certain, Bastion is certainly going to have huge board control presence at this location. Since all these guys were hit and forfeit 0, he's going to clear the site. No, I take that back. Her weapon does not make forfeit 0. Ventress, she only makes forfeit -2, right? Yeah, forfeit -2. So Yoda covers, and then everybody goes used. The card he stacked, that's a 7. That also goes back used. So 10 cards down, there's a 7. See if there's anything you can do with that. But unfortunately, just about everybody has now been killed. He looked, that's a 5 still on top. Put a 4 underneath it. Grievous is going to steal a lightsaber. He took Qui-Gon's saber. He could have taken Obi's saber and gotten the extra 1 to the drain, but at this point he's not really worried about the force drain being an issue. He's more concerned about stealing Qui-Gon's saber so he can't get it back and use it to win combats. Qui-Gon's saber is also one that there's a possibility that you would see him running 2 copies of in the deck because the Destiny 5. He's going to stack a combat card here. And now he's going to spend the rest of his force, and he's going to try and block this drain in space with Han, Chewie, and the Falcon. But again, he's running off a very lower hand size. And early on in the game, I think that kind of set him back a little bit. And he managed to pick up some cards in the middle of the game, but now he's at a position where he's not quite able to do a whole lot. Gets unlucky here with just a bad Destiny draw. You saw, earlier he had a couple of decent Destinies in there. He had a Bionic Hand, he had an Amidala's Blaster. Luckily his opponent whiffs too, so they both draw pretty low. So that's a plus, so nobody has to, it's just a push. And then we'll do the blind combat, but this is probably not going to be enough to clear or really do much of any damage in here because we know he's got the 7 that he stacked. We don't know what this card is underneath, but we do know his opponent should have 5/4. Dark Time goes through, subtracts that from 1, so it's only an 11. Oh, it's 5/1. That will be enough to kill Maul. So small victories there. It's 4 force, has to come from reserve deck. So there go all the high destiny cards. There's the command and the 5 that I was expecting to be there. Guess I just missed that by a card or two. He must have done something afterwards, moved or something I just missed. But unfortunately, now is where he's in a bad spot because he didn't have enough really to move away. He didn't have enough force left to move away. He's sitting in front of Dr. E and a guy with a lightsaber. He certainly activates enough that if he had a second copy of Maul and those 3 cards, alright, maybe he probably doesn't. But we're easily looking at a situation here where he can swing and hit Qui-Gon and then Dr. E make him immediately lost. Padme doesn't get a Destiny by himself. There's no Hoojiks in hand. And really just pile on the damage and probably finish this game off. This would be game over if he hits him right here, and he should. Because he should be... No. There's the 4 that he subtracted from his Destiny with the last combat. Qui-Gon's hit. Qui-Gon gets operated on by Dr. E, and Padme gets overflown, overwhelmed for 20 plus damage. Sagnet's going to just go ahead and concede here, and that's just saving, doing the little math there. But yeah, it wasn't a bad effort. Certainly a couple, 1 or 2 little things going another way. Having a better Destiny draw here against Slave 1 might have gone a little better. And then just, being able to attack Thrawn and not just leave him alone uncontested certainly might have changed things a little bit. Just having a few more cards in hand earlier might have also made us a little difference. So we're going to go ahead and move to Game 2. That Sagnet was nice enough to send over for us to review today. We'll go ahead and get this up. Close that window. Yeah, you can all see my desktop. So this game here, he's playing a Hoth CRV deck, just trying to set up walkers on Hoth and do some direct damage. And his opponent, Paul McWelsh, as he's known around the Isles, will be running Diplo. Sagnet is choosing to use Alert My Star Destroyer, the Walker Puller, and the 3rd Marker Puller, and the Docking Bay Secret Plans. So I'm looking at this, I'm thinking he's basically trying to set up the 3rd Marker, the Hoth Docking Bay, get Occupation out, get the Admiral's Order out to do some ping damage, and park a Star Destroyer or 2 here at Hoth. And looking at the deck there just for a second, that I saw a lot of big blue in there, so that's pretty much a safe bet. The problem with this, and this is something that I did mention to him after we were reviewing this for him already, is that this is a very expensive platform. Your walkers cost 6, your pilots cost 3 to 4 each, looking at Veers, Tarkin, Piet, Krennic, those types of guys. So there's 9 or 10 force you're spending on the ground, and then a Star Destroyer with a pilot is also going to cost you 9 to 10, 12 force, depending on which ones you're using. So you're, if you're only activating 10 or 12 a turn, That's basically you deploy a guy in a vehicle or you deploy a guy in a ship, and that's your turn. You're not really going to be able to afford to draw cards to replenish your hand. You're not going to be able to afford the opportunity to go to multiple locations in the same turn. And with a deck like Diplo, that can just sort of spread out on you very quickly with a lot more cheaper guys, characters that draw by themselves, characters that can go to an interior site like the Cantina. That could certainly be problematic. He's also got a lot of high forfeit guys. We'll see him get Mon Mothma up here. He's got Crix and free Major Bren. So this is a pretty good first turn for Paul. He's got a pilot. He's got Destiny. He's got the ability to redraw or to take into hand. He's activating 16 force now between moving and the other locations that are in play. So, Sagnet's activating 14. 14's not bad, but it is expensive to try and do multiple things. And he went ahead and played an imp command to get Thrawn and got his command grabbed. I'm sure that'd be a card he would love to have a little bit later. Doesn't have a walker, so he's going to go he'll take the long way to get a walker. He'll deploy Veers first. He'll pay the extra 2 to use the walker garrison to deploy the walker from the reserve deck. Looking at his deck, the way he's kind of setting this up here, he could get 3 different Hoth sites. It doesn't say marker sites, so he doesn't need like the 6th marker or something like that. Just a docking bay would count to do the walker garrison to do the extra damage. But with his opponent starting Menace Fades and being able to spread very easily to get to 3 battlegrounds for ultimatum anyway, that's certainly fine to use that. Get the walker. He picks the good one that can get trample. But again, what did that cost him? 9 to deploy it plus 2 more to pull it, so that was 11. That was really his whole turn. Now he's going to get drained 2 and 1 and have to lose a couple of cards. And then he's got to think about, all right, what do I want to do next? Am I even considering doing anything about this drain? Do I need to come attack this ship in space? What is it that I'd want to do? He saved 4, which is good. Maybe he could get 2 things out next turn. Possibly, this is the Avenger, Admiral's Order, Thrawn for 2 on it, and then Sidious, that would cost 16. And then he'd have 1 left to battle, and one of the 2 spots, or possibly both. We're going to see Delavar back him up. We're going to see an APP Luke now. So now we need 6 ability to draw out the Dune Sea. It's something a lot of people always forget sometimes. They need 6 ability to draw out the Dune Sea. So something like Blizzard 4 does nothing here. We'll get the 1 ping drain from You May Start Your Landing. I'll grab a docking bay, check out his Destiny. Commander Nemeth was in there. That's an option to reveal with Alert My Star Destroyer. It looks like Piet was in there as well, so he'll go ahead and do Executor Piet for for 15 force. Get the Admiral's Order out. So now he's no longer paying. He would no longer have to pay to drain. He's looking at 2, 1, 1 from the Admiral's Order would be 4. And 1 ping from You May Start Your Landing would be 5. So he's got 5 damage a turn. His opponent has 4 damage a turn. There's a free Captain Antilles, thanks to the -1 from him and the -1 from the Darkside player's Admiral's Order. Weapons display will kick in because he deployed and didn't battle. And he'll go ahead and he'll retrieve some force. So, and now he's going to get the drain again and do 4 more damage. So now you're looking at life force counts You're looking at 28, 30 with no loss pile to, after he's done losing here. He's going to use Piet. He's going to pull Nemeth out, get a commander. There's two more before he top decks. He already lost to Chimera, so that would be Thrawn's matching ship. There's only 3 ship combos, I believe, that you can currently match for. Executor, well, 4 if you count the Finalizer. 3 Imperial combos. Seeing Nemeth come out, he plays the Spiral. I know the non-V Nemeth, I think, blocks for reacts, but this one does not. But more likely he just wants to move the droids onto any other ship, move that over here so he can flip and maintain board presence here. Not highly unlikely he's got any type of spy ship or whatever that's going to go to Alderaan. And even if it does, R2 and Red 5 forfeits for 7, and so does the Spiral. I mean, you're going to cover 19. So that's really not a big deal. Spreading out even further, which is something that Diplo does. We see a Corran Horn to the ice planes. Now he'll ship dock and move the droids over. That'll let him use stolen data tapes, upload any 1 card remaining in his reserve deck, and flip his objective. So now he's only got rebels at 2 locations right now, here at Chandrilla and here in the Cantina. Rebels of ability less than 4. So he's adding 2 to his total battle destiny everywhere. And he can retrieve force for winning battles. Sagnet's going to go ahead and get the firepower shield, which is good. Help him retrieve a force because he deployed guys with ability. He's got the locations, didn't battle. Getting cards back is certainly going to be pretty important in this game. Any way possible. He's got the force in case he does pull aim high. He doesn't. So he'll go ahead and he'll get 1 force back. But because the Lightsaber player stuff deploys quite a bit cheaper, it gave him the ability to draw a few more cards. So he's looking at a 16 card hand. And now we'll start doing some of the ping damage. Drain 1, ping 1. Menace fades, cancels the force drain bonus, so that's only a drain of 1. Now we're going to see a Tempest with the Tarkin. See a Thrawn really help lock down this Executor. Nice power 18, but we're going to get a narrow escape. He'll lose the 2 to move away, but that's better than getting your butt kicked. And then it's going to open up possibilities for him if he wants here, knowing that he's adding currently 2 to his total battle destiny. This thing here with Veers is immune to less than 6. He would just need a 4 and that would clear the whole thing. So he could try and set that up. Since he activates so many, getting to the narrow escape, which is a 5, wouldn't be too far off. Sagnet's going to move back over. It means it's probably just going to end up playing a little bit of dump and chase. You'll see Corran Horn just move back away next turn to this site. So now he's got more stuff piled up here on Hoth. Eventually he'll put the docking bay out and then probably just shift Tarkin and Tempest 1 to the docking bay. But first he's going to have to eat a couple of drains. He did not move off a Hoth here. He could have moved over to the front of Chandrilla here. Blocked this drain of 1 a little bit. Now we're going to get the Mos Eisley, get the Cantina shuffle going. I know he's trying to set up occupation. Oh, there's there's Celebration. Yeah, we got Cassian and Chewie. He's going to fish a card out now, and now you can just look at the board position. You know, he's got these two locations really tightly locked up, where he's got a couple solid drains out, and his opponent has basically just exploded over every other location that he's not at. Um, and because of just how expensive everything is in his deck, it's going to be fairly hard for him to do much about it. Now he'll shift his ships around, moves the Tantive to here, moves the Spiral to here, um, he's got Cassian here, so now we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4. He's adding to his total battle destiny. So even if he draws a 0, most of these walkers are probably still going to get their immunity cracked. Same thing with these any smaller Star Destroyers, like the Avenger. It's only immune to less than 4. Does Nemeth add immunity to it? Yeah, Nemeth adds immunity to it. He makes it immune to less than 4, so it'd be immune to less than 6, but that's still not a whole lot. You know, he just draws a 2. That's enough to get it. He'll go ahead and he'll do his 4 ping damage again, which is nice. That's a nice, solid, steady stream of damage. Looks for a trample. He's got a 4 and a 3 lined up. Gravity Shadow is an interesting card. If your opponent's in front of you. He's going to force push. And he gets the occupation. Certainly going to try and do what he can to speed up some damage. We're going to see Sidious come down to the outside site. He's going to get barriered. That'll at least let him set up occupation. Oh, he's got 2 battlegrounds. Sorry. Yeah, so he's going to put Nemeth down here. Deploy the occupation, and then he'll just shuttle him up or move the over and have him get in as a passenger. But now we're talking about 2 damage from Hoth-Occupation, plus a couple of ping and drains and things like that. So he's got decent damage output. Looking at the other side of the board, his opponent is matching him. He'll cancel the celebration, so we don't have to worry about the retrieval aspect of it. But his opponent is actually outpacing him in damage, especially with Bail out now. That's going to add... which version of Decree is that? Alright, so that's non-V Decree. So he's got 2 rebel-based locations, so that's going to cancel his force drain bonuses. So that's not happening there. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He'll move somebody over, doing the Cantina Shuffle. So he's doing 7 damage a turn. And his opponent now would be doing, if things stayed the way that they are, Sagnet would be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the Admiral's Order, 6, 7. So you're looking at similar damage costs and things like that, and they're fairly even on life force counts. But we're certainly going to see, I think Lightside might have the ability to move some people around. You might see another pilot go here. You might just see the Spiral move over and Cornhorn shuttle up. Depending on what Paul's got in his hand or what tricks he has up his sleeve. But first, right now, he's going to go ahead and he's going to just get a whole bunch of damage in. He's also a turn ahead in terms of doing damage. So if they just continue to just trade, Paul started doing the damage earlier, so I think he'd have the advantage there in life force counts. As we'll see at the end of this pile of damage there. So Paul's got 4 in hand and 17 left down, 21 total, and we're looking at 13, 18. So he's slightly ahead. Hera's going to come out. He does the quick math, realizes that Hera's draw is alone because she's with an Imperial, and he's adding quite a bit to his total. So, I mean, anything he draws is going to clear this entire thing. He had two characters. That's just kind of an unfortunate luck. And he can go ahead and he can swap two cards with Obi. He's going to get the celebration back. And that's going to be the point where he just gets outpaced now. Not really much you can do here. This isn't a great matchup for a deck like this. I mean, the Hoth CRV can do damage and it forces the opponent certainly to put a lot of things on the board. Keeps the game close. In a match play situation, this wouldn't be so bad. You're probably looking at a loss here of 10 cards or so, which would certainly leave you a lot of possibilities in the second game. You wouldn't need to force things like that. But in a standard Swiss event, you're just going to get, unfortunately, just outpaced. So, Obi battles by himself, causes 2 force loss from weapons display because a character got excluded. That was Hera from getting barriered. Yeah, he drew a 5 and then added 5 to it, so he's got a 10 for total battle destiny. He draws the 7. So Sagnet at least wins the battle here, but he's got to lose everything in the process. That's going to drop his damage output considerably. That's 1 less battleground he's got. It's 1 less general he's got. That's 1 less drain he's got, and that's 1 less walker occupying a marker site. So instead of doing 7 a turn, now he's looking at doing 3. 1, 2, occupation for 3. Cornhorn slides back over. So now we're going to see, shuffle. The rest of the shuffle guys can move back out. They'll move back into the cantina on the next turn, on the next control phase. And yeah, this is just a couple cards left in hand. A character who can't deploy. It's really just Maul and Dooku. Cancels OB, Amidala, Qui-Gon at same site, Blast Reflection, he's immune to less than 5. That might be better as an EPP Maul. I don't know, in this particular matchup, how much EPP Maul would help. We're going to see the other decree come out now. Dooku's going to go block Luke and battle. It's a pretty safe bet that Dooku's going to die to the battle destiny, which we know is going to be really high, and there's a pretty good chance he gets hit too. So this might just be going for one of those moral victories where you're just like, well, I'm just going to get rid of your best guy just for spite. But in doing so, you're going to let your opponent retrieve a force because he's going to win the battle, especially when you draw the 1 here. Now you're going to take overflow, and that's probably going to be game between that and then the drains next turn. If this was a match play situation, you'd probably want to take as much in battle damage as you can before your opponent retrieves a bunch of force. You probably wouldn't have done that if it was a match play thing. You could have just sat tight and grinded out a few more cards, done a few more drains and pings. Moved over to Tatooine or whatever, and yeah. But instead we'll see Dooku die, and then he's got a PL5 overflow. 11, he's down to 13. Minus 4, he's down to 9 total cards left pretty much after this battle ends. And Slide City is over, but he's still looking at One, two, three, four, five, six. 6 damage next turn. His opponent's going to retrieve 3 cards. So this game would be over in at least one turn, probably at least 2 turns. Probably closer to one though, especially when he battles here and retrieves another card. Looks like he's just shuffling people around now at this point. Yeah. So this game's pretty much over. He's just gonna kind of go through the motions, just see if he can make Paul work for it a little bit. See what else he might play and pull out. Looking at life force counts though, it's 12 to 7. But he'll drain a little bit, whittle that down. Get him down to about 2 or 3 cards left. Use his retrieval celebration, and then probably battle anyway. If he's got a character in hand, deploy that one last guy, just to try and see if he can win the battle to retrieve one more card. If the card in his hand is a Hujix, he'll just leave a guy at the 3rd marker and move Hera over in front of Piet and leave Cornhorn just sitting there by himself. But now he's just going to go ahead and he's going to concede. So I want to say thank you to Sagnet for submitting these 2 game links, so I had some stuff to review. Of course, if you want to send me your links, I would gladly be happy to review them. It's always fun to share this information, especially for a lot of the newer players. We've seen more and more people coming back, especially now with the OCS, who are just trying to get back into the game, trying to figure out the little things that they could tighten up in their game to make their matches go a little bit better. So thank you again to Sagnet and to Fungineer who submitted the games from last week. I'd like to try and do this on a weekly basis. Go ahead and send me your links. You can email them to me, chris.gogolin@gmail.com. You can PM me on the forums, Gogolin. Just follow the links in the, follow my forum posts. But hope you guys enjoy these things. Always look forward to your feedback, and have a great night.